All right, I'd like to call the meeting to order, please, with a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everyone, to Homecoming Week in Brandon. Roll call, Mr. Lombard.
Cullum.
Yes.
Odie.
Yep.
Klumper.
Yes.
Saxer.
Honorway.
Talcott.
Yes.
All right. With that, if there are no changes needed to the agenda, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented tonight, please.
So moved. Second.
There's been a first and a second. All of those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. No conflict of interest disclosure or waiver requests tonight to report on, and I don't believe there was any community input that was requested to be placed on the agenda. So with that takes us to general business. Our first item under there for the evening is administration reports with the superintendent's report.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Just a few things to update you on. Again, September was Attendance Awareness Month. I want to stress the importance of attendance to our parents, guardians, and students, critical component of student achievement. Our FY19 audit, or last year's audit, the 2018-19 school year, is complete. I'd note that that is a strong component of your strategic plan. It is done annually. It was completed over the 16th and 17th of September. And to quote our auditor in the exit interview, it's a very good audit, similar to last year. No items to be discussed. We will have a specific report for you once that is finalized here for your approval. Accountability report card, as previously reported, on September 17th, the public release of data occurred. It is available on the Department of Education webpage under report card. The region meeting opportunities that were previously presented to the Board of Education are listed there. In the event that you are able to attend one or would like to attend one, feel free to let us know and we'll get you registered for one of those events. I do know that Member Saxer, as the chair of the Legislative Committee, is attending on Monday, October 7th in Madison. So that's an item to note. We will be holding our District 10 and 25 legislative breakfast on Wednesday, December 11th, 2019. That's a 7:30 a.m. morning meeting. I would ask that you check your schedule for me, as at this point in time, it is tentative. Typically, I'll run about 7:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. It's a working breakfast meeting. I will let you know in October. We'll firm up that date, but I wanted to provide you with the corresponding date and let you check that for me, and then we would like everyone to be able to attend. So check your schedule, and we will confirm the date in the near future. Sparta Elementary School construction timeline. Of course, we know that the bond has passed. I wanted to make certain that we were transparent in the timeline. We're currently in construction planning. We anticipate a bid in February of 2020. Construction will begin as soon as possible in the spring of 2020. We will convene an elementary boundary line committee made up of our local patrons here to review our elementary boundary lines and some suggestions as far as what we think would make sense as far as changes and tweaks to the boundary lines with the new building coming on. We will be under construction the entire 2021 school year, and the school will open in the fall of 2021. A couple of academic calendar items for this school year. In addition to us having homecoming this week, I would note that we will have parent-teacher conferences, intermediate school and middle school on September 30th, elementary buildings and the high school on October 1st. There's no school on the 4th of October, no school on November 11th for Veterans Day, and then our Thanksgiving break is Wednesday through Friday, November 27th through the 29th. I would also note that we had a power outage here in Brandon this afternoon at about 3:15 p.m. Power tripped off most of our buildings from what I know. What I would tell you is that at the high school specifically, when the power went off, it tripped our alarm system. It also activated our small emergency generator that runs some of our security lights, etc. I believe there was some misinformation or some false information out there regarding the school being on fire. What happened was the puff of exhaust from that small generator, it is a diesel generator, it sits there, a long time, that small puff of smoke over top of the old offices here at the high school were caught on a photo, and the school was proclaimed to be on fire. It is not. So anyway, just so you know, we did have a brief power outage. It was right in the middle of bus time and presented some interesting challenges, but we made her through, and everyone got home and arrived safely. With that, I would certainly entertain any questions that you may have.
Any questions for Superintendent Larson? All right. Hearing none, there is no board policy on the agenda tonight, so that takes us to general business item number 1, the 2019 State of the Schools Address, which is for information only.
Very good. So each fall, we talk a little bit about our accountability report card, and then in addition to this State of the Schools Address, I wanted to roll in a facilities update, just give you an enrollment at each building and then capacity at each building. With the new bond issue, I think it's important that you stay in tune with that. And then I also just want to touch base on the strategic plan at a high level. Again, this is a 30,000 foot flyover, so it will be relatively general in nature. Certainly ask any questions that you would like and or deem appropriate. So when we talk about data and school report, public report cards and accountability, I think the most important thing for everyone to know and understand and really grab onto that our ultimate goal is student learning and improved academic performance. And our administrators do a great job of utilizing the data that we have to drive instruction, make curriculum decisions, and ultimately increase student outcomes. So our administration lead our staff through our school improvement process, and then obviously we have working data that we're always using that is formative for our teachers on a daily basis. But really, the ultimate goal is student learning and improved academic performance. So high school, how is in high school SPI configured? They receive points on student achievement, high school completion, college and career readiness, and ELL progress. Elementary and middle schools receive their points based on student achievement, academic growth, school environment or attendance, and also ELL progress. Here's a list of the Brandon Valley School District SPI scores for 2019. You can see Brandon Elementary is an 88, Fred Assam Elementary 78, Robert Bennis Elementary 79, Valley Springs Elementary 88, Brandon Valley Intermediate School 70, Brandon Valley Middle School 70, and then Brandon Valley High School is 88. Would note there have been some changes with the report card, and the usability of the data for like compiling state averages and those types of things has been a little more difficult to manage and navigate. So at this exact point in time, I don't have an average state high school SPI score or an elementary or middle school SPI score. From my review, we're right in line with where we were in the past, and the state is also very similar to where they were in the past. I did figure the Brandon Valley High School in comparison to all other AA high schools in the state of South Dakota. The average SPI score in AA high schools was a 76.68. The range of scores at the high school level was 88 to 62. I would obviously Brandon Valley High School, again, highest SPI score for a AA high school. And I would note that the next highest is Mitchell with an 83. So those are just a couple of items to note on that front. So now, just real generalized data that's important for you to know and understand. Proficiency levels, so that's students receiving a 3 or a 4, proficient or advanced. On the Smarter Balanced Assessment, I have given you the Brandon Valley School District proficiency and advanced score, and I've also given you just the state number, so the BV in comparison to the state. You can see our third graders, almost 71% proficient or advanced in ELA, almost 70% proficient or advanced in math. Again, as we talk about a lot through our strategic planning process, this is a critical data point for our school district to keep their thumb on, as third grade reading proficiency, fourth grade reading proficiency drives so many future student outcomes. So it's really, really important that we maintain a high level of proficiency at our third and fourth grade levels, specifically in that ELA area. Fourth grade ELA, 75.3% proficient in BV, 50 and change at the state level, 72.27 at Brandon Valley level, and then 48, almost 49% at the state level in fourth grade math. Fifth grade ELA in math, Brandon Valley was 71.47% proficiency or advanced. The state of South Dakota, 54.09. In fifth grade math, we have Brandon Valley at 60.43 proficient, 40.53 in the state. Sixth grade ELA, 67.25 within the Brandon Valley School District, proficient or advanced. In the state of South Dakota, it's 50.84. Sixth grade math, 65.5% BV students, proficient or advanced. And then in the state of South Dakota, in sixth grade math, 41.25% proficient or advanced. Seventh grade ELA, almost 73% proficient or advanced in BV, comparison to the state at 54%. Seventh grade math, 64.6% approximately in BV, proficient or advanced. State of South Dakota, 45.64%. Eighth grade ELA, 66.18 within the Brandon Valley School District, 52.13 in the state of South Dakota. Eighth grade math, 61.43, proficient or advanced, and the state of South Dakota, 43.8. On to our juniors. Within our 11th grade performance on the ELA, Smarter Balanced Assessment, 82.54% of the Brandon Valley School District students were proficient or advanced. 64.41 students in the state of South Dakota, proficient or advanced, 11th grade ELA. 11th grade math, 61.9% proficient or advanced. In the state of South Dakota, 41.24% proficient or advanced. Okay, English language learner progress. This year we tested out our EL students, 35% on track to exit the ELL program on time. State of South Dakota, 45% ELL students tested were on track to test out of the EL program. This is basically a flip from last year's data. So last year we were at about 45% on track to exit. State of South Dakota was on about 35% on track. So this is one of those items that we need to dig into, and this is one of those items where we need to look for cause and ultimately remedy the situation and improve in this area, as it's not what we want it to be. So would note that certainly is an item that we will be evaluating very closely as our buildings move through the school performance or the school improvement process here at our October in-service. So an item to note.
I have a quick question about that.
Yep.
If you don't mind. So what does it mean to exit the program on time?
5 years, I think. Did I got that right? Yeah. So they take the access test and they have to make adequate progress, and it's basically exiting out of the access or testing out of the access test within 5 years.
When they enter the school or enter the country?
Well, the first year and country students don't count in that number. However, if you have an EL student who has been, let's say, in Sioux Falls, and they move to Brandon Valley and it's their second year here, then they would count in that number. So they're 5 years after their first year is how I understand it. Yep, good question.
What, this percentage of our student body that's EL? What do you think that is ballpark? I know it's a pretty small percentage, isn't it?
I think the last number I heard was we had 75 EL eligible students in our EL program, is what I'd heard. So very small.
Yeah, because I mean, sometimes when you have a pretty small number, the fluctuation
Sure.
is going to be wilder. It's like a B school, their SPI score one year might be really high, and the next year may take a swing because they really only have 25 kids maybe in their junior class. I mean, it can swing so much back and forth when your numbers aren't very large.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a very valid point. Another item that is an item that I would point to is our increasing number in that area. So we go from 40 students 3 years ago to 55 students to 75 students, so you see a pretty dramatic increase. So though a lot of those students, or many of those students, over half of the students that we have now are almost brand new to us, so we haven't had a chance to really work them out of the system. So again, that's why I would anticipate seeing us improve in that area. Yeah, great questions and great points.
Another, just a quick point, because I sometimes you worry when you put numbers out that, because the numbers help, but then sometimes they can cloud the issue. So you might look at the elementary scores, for instance, and you see 4 very different SPI scores, but 2 of those schools are accountable for EL because they have EL students in their building, and the other 2 do not have EL students, so their factor is a little bit different. And I'm kind of a numbers guy, so I was kind of looking, the old principal in me looked back at last year's numbers, so I could tell you some of the information you wanted on high school. But anyway, like the high school would have an SPI of like 93 if it, you know, because some schools don't have EL even at the AA level, and so it's always a little bit, you gotta be careful with that number thing. But the EL factor does not influence some schools, because if you don't have EL kids, then that number isn't a part of your computation.
Right. A really interesting thing is that if you have 1 EL student, you receive the district number for points
Yes.
in that area. So Robert Bennis is an example that I would utilize. If we have 1 student at Robert Bennis that's EL, they get the district level points as opposed to having the student achievement points and the growth points that would have otherwise been allocated to them. We've had some conversations with the Department of Education on how they configure their SPIs and whatnot, but that's an item to note as well.
They do that for privacy purposes, I assume. So
Yeah,
that student isn't identified.
I would think so. What's really interesting about it, though, is they've always been very staunch on their N size being 10.
Yeah.
Well, then they don't apply their N size to 10 for this one, so anyway, it's interesting.
It is interesting.
Great news, graduation rate. When you look at our graduation rate, 96% are on-time graduates. When we talk about 4-year cohorts, that's an on-time graduation. 84% in the state of South Dakota graduating on time with their four-year cohort. 98% of Brandon Valley School District students are completing their high school diploma. Ultimately, that 2% makes up for like summer graduates or those types of folks that take 5 years or, that type of thing. And then in the state of South Dakota, that group is at 90%. Item to note, there is no ACT data available right now. That will be released in mid-October. I will tell you that once we have that data, we'll include it within an administrative report. Our preliminary data at the district level is very similar to what it has been in the past, around that 23 and change composite score. But anyway, the release of our ACT data is scheduled for October, and we'll share at that point in time.
Do we have any, I was looking ahead, do we have any science data? Did they all take the science test too?
They did, yes, they did. As far as what we have for science data, we don't have a baseline from last year. We don't have the baseline from last year. We'll have it. This year is the baseline, so then we'll get growth data and whatnot going forward. I did not include the science data in this, as I've always focused on the ELA and math within past state and state addresses. I can certainly include that science data when we give the ACT data. Yep, no problem. So I guess some final thoughts I would just throw on the report card. Good work by the students, staff, and parents. Be very proud, very, very proud, but not satisfied. A continual growth mindset is critical to constant improvement. Obviously, there's areas that we can improve. There's always latitude for improvement, and we will do that. The processes that we utilize with data ultimately drive instruction, drive curriculum, and the whole point is increasing student outcomes, student learning. So thank you guys so much for your time, effort, and commitment. Any additional questions or comments on that before we move into facilities? Again, very high-level overview. If you're interested, all of the state, district, and school level information is available on the South Dakota Department of Education webpage. You can see everything that's publicly available there. So just real quick, facilities update. I would note this does not include any out-of-district placements, alternative school, etc. So if you're adding up the numbers and you're going, that's not as big of a number as you originally told us, that's because there are some kiddos that aren't included in this, because this is just talking the facilities that are within the district. So Brandon Elementary, 641 students. There are 604 students if you don't include our early childhood program. So 604 JK through 4 students there. Fred Assam Elementary is at 537. My quick takeoff, about 60 students of all those that were reassigned went to BE, so we reduced our number at Fred Assam by about 60. So if you're looking at that number, you can see that we would be at about 600 right now had we not made the boundary line adjustment. The other reason that I want to draw your attention to that is they grow by somewhere between 30 and 40 kids-ish a year at Fred Assam. So over the course of the next couple years that we're under construction, you're going to see that number be right at that 600 number, and then it'll fall back down when we open Sparta Avenue, obviously making room for growth. Robert Bennis Elementary is at 561. Valley Springs Elementary is at 98. The intermediate school is at 674. Middle school is at 694. High school is at 1,224. And then the other item that I think is really important for you to have as a talking point in the event that you ever get asked about it is our high school capacity, 1428. We have space for our current grades 9, 8, 7, and 6, which are 4 of what I would call the larger grades within our current system. They're kind of the lump in the snake, for lack of a better phrase. That's really where you start seeing the 350s come out. And then we tick down at 5-4, and then it goes back up when you get down into like that second grade level. So the important thing to note is that our plan of an addition at the high school in the near future, next 4, 5, 6 years, will work out really, really nicely as far as how our numbers work. So our 4 big sections, grades 6, 7, 8, and 9, they'll all fit when they're grades 9, 10, 11, and 12. All right, so strategic plan, we went through this process a couple of years ago. Our strategic plan is made up of 5 domains: student achievement, staff development, facilities and operations, fiscal responsibility, and parent-community relations. I would tell you that it's important for you as a board to know that you led that process. You involved a ton of stakeholders in that process, and ultimately the plan that you developed is the tail that wags the dog. Within each of our domains, we broke it into components, 2 components, and then I would just tell you that a variety of things are happening at the district level and at building levels related to that. But what's probably more exciting than anything is I asked our administration to review the strategic plan and tell me, what are you doing in your building that's directly aligned to our strategic plan in the area of our 5 domains and the various components. And it's so impressive when they send back the things that they're doing and how directly aligned they are to ultimately your goals. So that's just an item that I would note. You can see the various things included with academic excellence and character development. Again, many of these things were maybe occurring previously, but now we have direction specifically to why we do what we do. A new one that I guess I would just draw your attention to, the STLs. We've had a little bit of conversation with that previously. STEM teacher leaders. So we had literacy coaches, we had tech coaches, we had those for a variety of years. They're built into the budget. Well, guess what? We find that the hours weren't getting utilized to the full degree. Hey, STEM is a goal and a component within your strategic plan. Let's rebrand those items and reutilize those resources to develop and implement STLs grades K through 6 or elementary through the intermediate school. I would back up to one thing on student achievement, and I would tell you that character development or ultimately school culture drives so many things. You cannot have anything without a culture of excellence. That's academic excellence, character excellence, etc. So what I would say is our culture drives all of that student achievement. Staff development, professional development, Lynx PD, our administration, hats off to our administration for the work that they've done with Lynx PD. Each of them have taken on additional work and an extra load, providing our staff with PD, professional development, and it's ultimately their choice on which PD they attend. Calendar development, it's interesting to note that when we looked at our calendar this year, we got rave reviews on the 3 days before the school year started. So for next year, had to take and revamp the calendar a little bit and change it and put 3 days back on the front end of our calendar for the 2021 school year, and ultimately that's a decision that is, again, supporting highly effective teachers, leaders, and staff. And then the building level data usage is always so exciting to hear about. Our principals will share with me the teams that they've assembled to evaluate data and make individual student level decisions based on the information and the data that they have. So they take data to a whole nother level. So that's always exciting to hear about from our building level principals. Work environment, we have an annual Great Work Environment Challenge set forth for our administration. We've conducted our BV Listen survey. That survey information will be provided to our administration to compile strategies to ultimately drill down and improve work environment. And then ultimately top quality compensation plays into work environment. And that's ultimately the work done by the Board of Education, the business office, through negotiations with our staff, with our teacher group, making certain that we offer the very best compensation package that we can, which just so happens to be the very best in the state of South Dakota.
Profession, is the BV listed every other year?
Yes, yep, you got it. Great question. Facilities and operations. All right, so when we talk facilities, we also talk growth management. Ultimately, our annual budget allocations that are prioritized, 5-year plans, and then our long-range vision in addition to our maintenance schedules for quality facilities. Growth management, I think about our facilities review committee, the utilization of enrollment triggers. So when we get to this point, we're going to do this. That's critical for you as a board to know and understand that we're not acting until those enrollment triggers are hit, they've been established. They're what move us on to the next phase of our plan. Our 5-year plans are outstanding documents that clearly outline many things for the short term or the upcoming 5 years. And then BV Vision 2040 ultimately outlines the long-range facility plan for you as a district when you have about 7,400 students. So we talk a lot about that. It outlines that you have one high school, which I know is one critical component to what we want to do. Fiscal responsibility, the annual budget process is very intensive, but so critical for everything that we do. The annual audit, another annual item that we do that's so critical for you as a Board of Education to ensure fiscal responsibility. Our growth projections, spot on growth projections this year. They look to be right there, which is again critical for short-term and long-range planning. Again, I'll reference the 5-year plan, which is done extremely well. The facility review committee reports that we utilize, and ultimately the long-range plan. Fund balances. Our annual budget process is critical to your management of those fund balances. 5-year plan, again, critical to the management of your fund balance, and then ultimately the review and reporting out of our fund balance. I believe the only fund balance that we currently have right now that would not align to your specific goals of a 15% fund balance is the special education fund, correct, Paul? And we are working on that. We are working on that. It is challenging when you have new students or growth in a special ed area that are expensive, but I will tell you we are working on that component of the strategic plan. It's on top of mind. Parent and community relations, I think I would just draw upon what you've outlined as a goal, strengthen school, family, and community engagement. Ultimately, I think about the building level parent-teacher conference strategies. We saw I'll just use the intermediate school as an example. We saw their participation rate at conferences go up 25-30% a few years ago, and they've also been able to maintain that high level of engagement with parents in that event. And we've utilized focus groups, the Links Way. I think the establishment of common language that our parents can rally around regarding our character initiative has been very powerful for engaging our parents in a meaningful way. Obviously, our PTAs or PTOs. An example that I would use, Principal Schleckler at the high school this year is having a community breakfast on the Friday of homecoming week, directly aligned to your strategic plan. So it's important for you to know that your strategic plan and your goals are driving not just district level decisions, but they trickle and they go all the way down to the building level when they're making decisions and setting forth action plans. Community engagement, I just draw upon career night that the high school established here last year. Internship development, we're currently in the process of increasing the participation and the partnerships with our local businesses. The Links Way, again, common language, those various ways to engage our community. So, Brenner Valley School District Strategic Plan. The thing that I think is most important is we will revisit and we will check on it annually. In addition to that, it's discussed at the administrative level a couple of times a year, and that's just to keep it top of mind. It's not ultimately a document that is created, sits on the shelf, gets 5 years of dust, and is not revisited. Ultimately, what you've outlined as the important domains for our school district, components, and then on the respective goals are not only on our mind, but they're being driven towards, and we want to meet those goals. So with that, I would certainly entertain any questions you have for moving into the general business component of the agenda.
Any questions? All right. Hearing none, that takes us to general business items number 2 and 3. I would entertain a motion to approve those as presented, please.
So moved.
Second.
There's been a first and a second. All of those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Items, I would entertain a motion to approve items 1 through 8 as presented, please.
So moved. Second.
There's been a first and a second. All of those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. That takes us next to formal board reports. If anyone has a formal board report they would like to share tonight. Hearing none, there is one travel report there for your review. And with that, that takes us to the end of our agenda. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
There's been a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. And coronation is in the PAC as we speak.